Hi guys, thank you so much for being here, watching today. So much good news is happening in the world. I don't even know where to start. I know you're saying, but Daddy Brian, that's Chuck Todd. I know. I was at home yesterday and I didn't have anything to do and NBC was on. I had the greatest time watching them flounder yesterday. I thought I would show it to you, and I want to take a sec, please, to thank all my new subscribers. You're getting us rolling. Hey, they're against me already. They've already banned a video. I have a community strike, but you know what? I don't care. We're going to keep going, and thank you for the likes and the comments and the sharing. Thank you so much for you warriors out there who have the gall, the nerve to share this information. Guys, we're truly in an information war. You can get any information you want, but now you got to sift through it and judge for yourself. It's become that complicated. So here I am yesterday. I'm listening to Chucky Boy here, and I was having the best time. Just watch him change. I shouldn't say change, because they seem to have conspiracy on their mind 24/7 now. But I just thought this was great. Let's just watch the beginning. So fun.
And joining me now is Peter Navarro. He's the Director of Trade and Manufacturing Policy inside the White House.
Okay, I put up the wrong video. Let's go over to the other video. Peter Navarro is going to come up next. Peter Navarro, I did not realize what a tactical nuke this guy actually is. This guy is insane. What I want to just watch is the beginning of Meet the Press. It's hilarious. It's so funny. Watch this.
An outbreak. You may not be.
Okay, sorry.
This Sunday, the president and the pushback on a vaccine.
We'd love to see if we could do it prior to the end of the year.
We can't count on it. We don't know if it'll be 1 year, 2 years, or many years.
Okay. So the news right there should be the president just announced a vaccine pretty much by the end of the year. You know he's going to do it, guys. He wouldn't be standing there saying it if he couldn't do it or come close to it. And what is this guy? They have a guy saying something just so... He doesn't know. It could be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. They talk to you like you're in kindergarten. They talk to you like you're stupid. The president, he's making it happen. He made every problem they hand him, he hits out of the park. Boy, that must be very frustrating for the media, the Democrats, especially Chucky Todd here.
On restarting the economy.
Vaccine or no vaccine, we're back.
I feel if that occurs, there is a real risk that you will trigger an outbreak you may not be able to control.
Okay, let's talk about risk. Let's talk about how many people die in their car a day, every minute of every day. There's plenty of risk. There's enough risk in airplanes. Those are scary enough. But what do they tell you when you're getting on the plane? You're pretty much safer in this plane than you are in your own car. Okay, get on the plane, have some peanuts. That's what they tell you. Okay? The pilgrims left England and half of them died, either on the trip or coming into this harsh environment. But they would rather die than stay in England. You know what? My last video shows a guy on Tucker saying, I would rather die than start my business all over again. He worked his whole life. He's finally successful, and he's like, what is going on? I thought we were going to reopen the economy. There's risk in everything. There's a minor, the risk of the flu type of risk. It's not even a major. It's a minor risk. I'm sorry. They are losing on every front. We'll continue now. I'm ranting. I'm sorry.
On preparedness.
Without better planning, 2020 could be the darkest winter in modern history.
He's nothing more than a really disgruntled, unhappy person.
And now.
Okay. Now that guy is not saying when we came into this, we had everything was depleted. Now we've beefed everything up to maximum levels. So if there is any small problem, even a big problem, we just be on top of that problem and it'll be gone. It'll be gone. You know this is all fake anyway. This is all, look, oh God, look at this guy. Jeez, look at the look on his face.
Now this from former President Obama.
This pandemic has finally torn back the curtain on the idea that so many of the folks in charge know what they're doing.
Okay, again, the CDC was not a Trump-appointed people, and they suck. They don't know what they're doing. They have failed at every level. You go back into my videos. In fact, I'm pretty sure one of my videos might have been torn down because I showed how Fauci was he's so wrong about everything, and he made huge mistakes during the AIDS problem that costed lots of lives. He's a nightmare, and we need to get rid of him. I don't like him.
My guest this morning, Defense Production Act Coordinator Peter Navarro and Dr. Tom Inglesby of Johns Hopkins University.
Okay, now watch this.
Plus,
oh yeah, Johns Hopkins University. I don't even think I'm going to get into that interview because that guy makes me real mad. Those numbers are rigged. I'm going to show you an example too that doesn't even make sense. I'll show you why the numbers are rigged.
partisan pandemic, anti-shutdown demonstrations across the country.
There's my people.
While in Wisconsin, the state's conservative Supreme Court overturns the Democratic governor's stay-at-home order.
I don't think that the risk presents any higher than me going to a grocery store.
There it is. Think about it. You're passing people in the grocery store. Okay, you're collecting in a room. That's true. But have you ever been at Trader Joe's?
Also, all those conspiracy claims.
There's another agenda. It's not just the virus.
There it is. There's smart America right there. They just want to completely tell you what to do all the time. Guess what, guys? That is in the other countries that want to live in countries and let the government control and run everything. We don't want that. Okay, this is America. We broke away from that purposely. So we're not going to go back to that, especially when we've been able to destroy every problem ever thrown at us. We're good.
How and why so many baseless conspiracy ideas are spreading during this crisis. I'll talk to NBC News national security analyst Clint Watts. Joining me for insight and analysis are Peter Alexander, White House correspondent for NBC News, Anna Palmer, senior Washington correspondent for Politico.
Okay, we don't need to, but what they're going to do is they start going into conspiracies, and how conspiracies start and what's going on. And what I wanted to show you was their board where they show the numbers. And I'm not sure if that was at the very beginning. Anyway, they're saying that there's like 90,000 dead people, but only 1 million or so are infected. A little over 1 million. Watch this.
Today's
this is
numbers
H1N1.
are 4 times higher than what the CDC reported just
10 years ago. 10 years ago, this is.
Our estimates, we believe, give us a better estimate of how much disease, hospitalization, and death there is.
The government now believes roughly 8 million children have come down with the virus. In addition to the 540 who have died, 36,000 have been hospitalized.
Okay, we're going to pause it right there. Now we're talking about children only. 8 million. 8 million. And out of 8 million, only 540 have died from a far more dangerous virus. Let's look at one more number. Watch this.
Among adults 18 to 64, there were an estimated 12 million cases, 53,000 hospitalizations, and almost 3,000 deaths.
Okay, so what are we looking at right here? Another 12 million on top of the children. Another 3,000 deaths on top of the children. But wait, if this is a far more dangerous virus that kills the healthy and the young, then why was there no lockdown, panic, why was there no action really taken toward this? Here's another problem I see. 2,920 deaths at this point, and there were another, 500 and something. Okay, so we're still under 4,000 deaths. If there were 20 million cases, and it was a far more dangerous virus, How come there were so few deaths? I'll tell you how come, because they're rigging the numbers like Dr. Burke said, which you can see in my videos also, and I'll show you a bunch of other reasons why. But basically, they cooked the numbers up to make you think that a lot more people have died of COVID-19. Darn it, I shouldn't have said that out loud. CV-19. Then you go in for a gunshot wound and you come out with, and you die, your report comes out with the virus on it. That was the cause of your death. I mean, they're not even talking about the deaths that are caused by keeping the nation shut down. But I'm going to let Peter Navarro, this video is probably starting to get a little long, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to where I accidentally started, and we're going to talk to Mr. Navarro, and he's going to show you the truth. And this is going to really irritate Chuck Todd, which is very entertaining. Ready?
And joining me now is Peter Navarro. He's the Director of Trade and Manufacturing Policy inside the White House, but in this crisis, he's also the National Defense Production Act Policy Coordinator. Mr. Navarro, welcome back to Meet the Press. And I want to start with your current job as Defense Production Act Coordinator. I'm sure you've seen the letter a handful of Democratic senators have written, and they're frustrated that it hasn't been invoked enough. They say that the authority has been used too sparingly to basically even out the market when it comes to PPE and testing kits and testing supplies. What do you say to their concerns?
They're dead wrong. Let me give you a couple of examples. One of the most successful uses of the Defense Production Act was to get General Motors working with a small company called Ventec to make ventilators. We had a serious crisis back at the time. This was a miracle and in some sense a microcosm, Chuck, for the future. What we had was General Motors in 17 days working with this small company stood up a ventilator factory, and within 3 days with the help of UPS we were able to deliver ventilators to hospitals in Gary and Chicago. Now, beneath the surface of that, using the DPA, the real story is GM went in and used 3D imaging to replicate a factory in Seattle. It was small, it was only cranking out 25 ventilators. More importantly, Chuck, 700 pieces go into that ventilator, and GM was able to use its manufacturing platform to go out to its supply chain to replicate virtually all of those here on domestic soil. So using the DPA, we were able to move in incredible speed, innovative, and bring ventilator production right here to domestic soil. That for me is a microcosm of what we're doing. Honeywell, we opened 2 factories, one in Arizona and one in Rhode Island. That was done using the DPA in 5 weeks as opposed to 9 months. So we're using the DPA whenever we need to, and we're using it quite effectively.
Well, you
know what that means, Chucky? That means in America, we can solve problems. And we don't need to send all of our manufacturing jobs across the ocean and turn someone into our slave race. What we need to do is make it in America. We need to make it in America, and we need to hire Americans to make it in America. Thank you.
You're making a strong case for how the DPA can be effective. And what these senators are asking is use it more to ramp up the issue, for instance, the issue of testing kits, but more importantly, the supplies it takes to process those tests is still something we lag behind on. What's wrong with using DPA to surge those supplies?
These senators are looking in the rearview mirror. We had the same discussion 6 weeks ago about ventilators. They were saying the exact same thing. And what we did with ventilators was basically get a situation now where by June we're going to have over 100,000 of them. We're going to have more ventilators than America ever needs. And we're going to be able to export those ventilators, make that an export industry, jobs here, exports there.
The same thing is going to happen to the tests. They're going to want tests from the United States, all over the world, and we're going to make a lot of money. Because that's how we do business. We do it quickly, we do it easily, because we don't have some bureaucratic BS gumming up the works.
And we're going to be able to give ventilators to our allies that can't afford them. So same thing's happening with testing as we speak. Every week it ramps up. It's kind of like computer chips where the speed doubles every certain amount. Same things happen with testing. So these Democratic senators ought to get out more often and see what the Trump administration is doing. Chuck, the essence of this administration, this president built up the most beautiful economy in 3.5 years. The Chinese Communist Party crippled that in 30 days. He is going to rebuild this economy based on 3 things: Buy American, deregulate, and innovate. We're going to start by bringing home the pharmaceutical and medical supplies supply chains here, using things like the DPA, but also other private sector enterprises. And I think this week was really important. I saw this as a turning point because we not only introduced a strategic national stockpile in President Trump's image, smarter, bigger, more resilient. We also announced...
well, that's cool, too, because if anything else happens, we are set. We're set for a long time. Trump loves to do... He doesn't just do it. He overdoes it. That means we're fine going forward. We can reopen.
A vaccine race that is moving in Trump time, which is to say as fast as possible.
Trump time.
And we're getting things done in terms of reopening the economy. So that's where this Trump ship is heading. It's jobs, it's Buy American, it's make stuff here. And for every service sector job we may lose in this transition, we're going to replace those by manufacturing, and things are going to be great.
Guys, think about it. China, Russia, Iran. We may have to fight them someday. We may get in a conflict with them. Are we seriously going to rely on one of them to provide us with materials and medicine? Don't you see they will just cut us off in the long run? We have got to be totally 100% self-sufficient. We're the richest country in the world. Of course we can be self-sufficient. We can teach others to do it too. We're the light. Okay, the world is turning out to be a really dark and cold place. America's the light.
I want to go back, though, to the issue of testing and test kits. You're making a lot of promises here. At what point will every business leader in America know they have access to as many test kits as they need to reopen their facilities?
Now, today.
Admiral Giroir has said it quite clearly that everybody who needs a test now can get a test.
There it is.
We continue to ramp up.
When do we get
production.
beyond that?
I'm not here to make promises to you, Chuck. I'm here to tell you, as the coordinator of the supply chains, that we are rapidly ramping up testing, just like we did with ventilators. We're ramping up surgical gowns. We're ramping up masks. And this strategic national stockpile 2.0, I think it might be worth talking just a little bit about. It's smarter because we're using information technology. It's bigger in a really smart way, because not only are we going to fill FEMA warehouses with a lot more PPE and medicines, we're also going to use distribution centers like Owens and Minor, which the president visited last week in Pennsylvania, to have them hold additional inventory. Hospitals' point of care are going to hold additional inventories. And most important, Chuck, in terms of this, Buy American, Build American. As we locate the domestic supply chain here, our factories are going to be able to hold reserve capacity, which allows us to surge to additional demand. So my job is to make sure people of America have enough of what they need going forward, and I'm confident that we are moving beautifully in that direction under the leadership of President Trump.
Look, I know you want to talk about the strategic national stockpile, but I got to ask you this question. You did a pandemic exercise, and you went through these plans in 18 and 19. Do you have a good explanation for why the after-action reports weren't followed in time to have our stockpiles prepared for this pandemic?
I would like to answer that question, Mr. Navarro, if you don't mind, if I take over. And Chuck, you know that look on your face that you have right now, you may as well keep it, because it was the Obama administration that sucked up all those resources and didn't put them back. And the Trump administration might have been just a little distracted trying to fix the destroyed economy that it was handed. And I'm still shocked that they did it They didn't just do it, they overdid it. They made it the greatest economy in history in just 3.5 years. So you know what, Chuck? I'm so mad that they can just say that when they know it's like you broke something and you're yelling at someone for not fixing it. They didn't even know it was broken. We didn't know it was broken, Chuck. Okay, shut up, Brian. I'm ranting.
I'm not looking in the rearview mirror right now, Chuck. And this president's just looking straight ahead towards what's going to be a really strong future. The fact of the matter is that we were able to get through the Chinese winter here, the pandemic, with what we had. It was a threadbare FEMA stockpile that was left to us by the previous administration. The one that we're going to have going into the fall is not that. It's going to be, as I said, smarter, bigger. Right. Far more resilient. That's what I'm doing, Chuck. My focus here, I came here to kind of work on trade policy issues, and somehow I became part quartermaster and supply clerk. But it's been a beautiful thing working with private industry to see how innovative the companies of America can be, and how the manufacturing platforms of this country, if we just give them some lift, how they can really develop, like the GM example I told you about earlier.
I want to ask you quickly about the CDC and ask you whether the president has confidence in the CDC as our lead on this pandemic.
Well, I'd say two things about that. First of all, you should ask the president that question, not me. But early on in this crisis, the CDC, which really had the most trusted brand around the world in this space, really let the country down with the testing, because not only did they keep the testing within the bureaucracy, they had a bad test, and that did set us back. But going forward with these guidelines, the important thing to understand here for the American people is this. Opening up this economy is not a question of lives versus jobs. The fact of the matter is, and what President Trump realized early on, is that if you lock people down, you may save lives directly from the China virus. Right. But you indirectly are going to kill a lot more people. And why do I say that? We know statistically, based on our experience with the China trade shock in the 2000s, that unemployment creates more suicides, depression, and drug abuse. But we also know this in this crisis, as we've basically locked down our hospitals for everything but COVID. Women haven't been getting mammograms or cervical examinations for cancer. We haven't been able to do other procedures for the heart or the kidneys, and that's going to kill people as well. So if you contrast like this complete lockdown, where some of the people in the medical community want to just run and hide until the virus is extinguished, that's going to not only take a huge toll on the American economy, it's going to kill many more people than the virus, the China virus ever.
It almost makes their numbers legitimate with the deaths they're not counting, as far as all the suicides and all the cancer-related deaths and all the other medical things they're not doing, and they're not screening, and it almost makes the number they're pushing forward on the old John Hopkins board like a real number almost. Of course, that's just a joke, but who knows what the numbers are? I mean, honestly, things are so jumbled at this point. No one's ever going to know the truth, and maybe that was the whole point.
Ever would.
I gotta ask you this question about the president. On one hand, he says he wants to leave these decisions up to governors, but it does seem as if he doesn't like the decision of a governor, particularly if they're in the Midwest, he expresses his view. How does that help the governor be able to make their own decisions?
Look, I report directly to the president. I'm one of the top 5 advisors on policy. I let the president speak for himself. That's all I can say. I do think that what we're seeing here across this country in terms of different responses, that it is very useful to leverage local control. But on the other hand, I'm a Californian, and when I see the mayor of Los Angeles want to lock down that city through the end of July, I just got to have to scratch my head. I think that California, that's the only way I see California ever becoming a red state, because my folks back in Orange County are not going to put up with that kind of nonsense. And it is nonsense.
Peter Navarro, the Defense Production Coordinator, and advisor on trade and manufacturing policy as well. Thanks for coming on and sharing the administration's views. I appreciate it.
Peter Navarro. Well, I just thought you all might like to see poor Chuck Todd here get used like a human punching bag, like he does to Donald Trump. And I think this is a good indication that fake news is just almost completely destroyed. I hope that that complete destruction is right around the corner. Right around November would be very, very helpful. Anyway, guys, thanks again for joining me today for another video. I hope to see you again. And thank you all so much for the encouraging words and the subs, the likes, the shares. You've all just been fantastic. Thank you so much. And of course, God bless.